not before time is my view, but I have other views as well, because it was the whole timeline of it was very, very strange. Lord Ashcroft poll on Monday showed that there was a 12% margin, you know, in favour of remaining within the Union. And that was kind of like him and Hod and whatever up in Scotland. And then, of course, the resignation. Now, Nicola Sturgeon, for all intents and purposes, I don't know why she did it then, but told no one within her inner echelons of the SNP that that was her intention. There has been no succession planning, such narcissistic behaviour of anyone to be a leader of a powerful cabal up in Bute House at the moment, not to have any succession planning. Does she think she's immortal? Come on. Well, the floodgates have now opened, because a week today is the closure of the people who want to put their names into the hat. Of course, you've got Angus Robertson, you've got Kate Forbes, you've got even Hamza Youssef is thinking about leading it. He's driven, you know, the A&E waiting lists, the hospital waiting list in Scotland down the path. He's crippled, you know, the NHS in Scotland, and now he thinks he's a good...
Do you have a favoured candidate who you'd like to see?
No, I don't want any of them in. I want the whole thing to collapse, because they've killed Scotland off. They've divided the nation. The SNP have got... They should be hanging their heads in shame.
Now, it's interesting, because I was looking at a story about Nicola Sturgeon in the FT today, and it's, you know, you can't take away from Nicola Sturgeon, great politician and a brilliant at campaigning. But what will her legacy be? What did she leave? And that's what I'm saying. She didn't govern. What did she do? So whether you look at death through drugs, whether you look at education going down, whether you look at the NH going down, whether you look at the cost of living, she did sort of nothing there. But she was a ruthless machine in campaign. If you go back to, what was it, 1987, there would have been 50 Labour MPs there, only 3 at SNP. Complete reversal. In fact, the irony of it, they say the Conservative success was pretty much down to her winning all the seats in Scotland. But interestingly, there's also like an investigation as well into the money.
There's two.
£600,000 of funds. What's going on? Could this be why she's left? Because you're quite right. If you don't have succession planning, and we've seen it in the Conservative Party as well, Boris Johnson left quicker than anybody would have thought, and look how that upsets a political party, a governing party, which they are as well. Which is worse.
Do you feel, Claire, that Nicola Sturgeon ran things down in Scotland slightly deliberately in order to create a grievance against the UK government? Because that's always a suspicion.
That's a really interesting point, Phil, because there's a school of thought that is now thinking, what is going to happen if the SNP... Well, they have to have a leader. They are still in the clutches of power in Scotland. But it's the opposite. You know, it's what the Labour MPs and the Conservative MPs in Scotland, and the Lib Dems to a certain extent as well, have to do to keep them out. Because the SNP, what Nicola Sturgeon has always done, is blamed Westminster for absolutely everything. Absolutely. Oh, the Supreme Court put the kibosh on the independence review, and the fact now we can't even hold the de facto referendum that I wanted to, which we call the Prudendi Ref, for the next general election. They can't do it because it's not just.
But why I say she was a fantastic campaigner in her sort of speech when she stood down. Oh, you know,
was all
it's
about her.
No, but it's like, oh, politics is so personalised and polarised. It should be about the policy and not the person. I thought if ever a party made it about a person and not about policy, it was her.
Kevin, are you an unlikely Nicola Sturgeon supporter?
I really... it's not often I would say this, but I really find it difficult to even watch this lady, you know, perform. Because that's what she does. She performs. You've got it in one. You know, she's a campaigner. There's no question about that. But the trouble is, I mean, I used to, as a young guy, when I used to work in education, I used to be quite envious of Scotland's educational system because it was fantastic. I mean, there's things like, for example, there's 2/3 of the schools haven't been inspected in Scotland for 5 years. Do you know what I mean? That's ridiculous. The pupil-teacher ratio has been destroyed completely. It goes on and on. And what got me was one of the things that they introduced was for prisoners. I'm going back to my sort of favourite topic here, the judiciary and what have you. She actually gave, or they gave, prisoners a mobile telephone, right? Which they could get their drugs sorted out, couldn't they, and everything else. Crazy, crazy woman. So I've got no time for the lady whatsoever. And in fact, I wished I'd have been up in Scotland to celebrate with everybody else, you know, doing the hokey pokey or whatever it was they were doing.
Try and get on the side of a victim, whatever that victim was,
Yeah.
and then make everybody else the bully.
Yes.
I mean, it was a very clever strategy, even if that victim could be 0.00 whatever of the population. And
Yep.
this is where the overreach went, wasn't it, with the
Transgender
yes,
reform bill.
And that's where, and I thought, my goodness, you would have chucked everything under the bus to get your independence.
And everyone.
And in the end, it was everyone.
Yep.
And it was like womankind, who you would have thought for a feisty female politician, she would have been on their side.